Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first edition of Talk and Travel with Terry and Darcy, your hosts from opposite coasts. My name is Darcy McKillop. I'm your East Coast host. With me, we have Terry Hawkins from the West Coast, and we hope that you enjoy the show that we're going to put on for you over the next little while. Today's topic is going to be talking about cruising. Terry has, believe it or not, done 2 cruises within the last 3 weeks. 3 cruises in the last 6 months. So he's got some really good tips for us about cruising, given today's, dealing with the COVID pandemic. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get going, Terry, just introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Terry Hawkins, aka Terry the Travel Guy, your West Coast host from Kelowna, British Columbia, where I live with my wife, my 2 lovely teenage children, and a very spoiled American bulldog. We've lived in Kelowna here since 2014, and before that we lived in Edmonton. And before that, I actually hail from the Northwest Passage up in a town called Cambridge Bay in Nunavut.
Really big hot spot. Thanks, Terry. Just to fill you in with myself a little bit, I live in Douglas, New Brunswick. I've lived in New Brunswick my entire life, a couple of different spots in New Brunswick, but I am married. My wife is a teacher. My son is in his 3rd year at university, and we do have a pet, an old cranky cat. He's pretty good most of the time, but today he's trying to get on the show. So. Great. So, like I mentioned in our intro, Terry has been doing tons of cruising over the last little while, like 2 cruises in the last 3 weeks, plus another one earlier in the year. In the last 2 cruises, he's managed to get different experiences because there have been 2 different ports and there have been 2 different types of cruises. One being a regular consumer cruise, and the other cruise, a technical cruise that was industry professionals. As the ship kind of ramps back up. But so what we're going to do today is we're going to get Terry to kind of give us a feel for what those cruises are like and kind of compare the 2. Adventure to the Seas was the consumer cruise that he took with a number of our friends. It didn't take me, but I guess I could have went. On Adventure to the Seas out of Galveston, Texas, and then finished up with another cruise out of Long Beach on Navigator to the Seas, which is a tour technical cruise. So Terry, I'm just asking a few questions so we can walk through the experiences of these cruises. So maybe you can tell us what getting checked in on the cruise, maybe even getting to the cruise, I guess, if you wanted to a little bit, but what the experience is like of that first day, I guess, of getting checked in and boarding the cruise.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the first thing people do now when they're cruising is you've got to make sure that you've got the app for the cruise line downloaded and on your phone. Fill out all your pre-cruise information. It's advisable that you also put in your charge card on there. That just makes things a little bit easier on board, a little bit faster. Once you have all your information put into the app, you'll pick a boarding time for the cruise. That gives you an hour-long window of when to show up. For Galveston, we picked a time of 12 to 1 o'clock to show up. 24 hours before your boarding time, you can enter in a health questionnaire. And they ask, the standard COVID tests or questions, are you experiencing flu-like symptoms, that sort of a thing, in addition to the standard health questionnaire that was asked before you boarded cruises pre-COVID. Then once you actually arrive at the port, check-in procedure, you drop your bag off just like you normally do. Masks are required, of course, in the port facilities. You'll be asked to provide your proof of vaccination, your passport, and your proof of a negative COVID test. While you can have those as a digital copy, Darcy and I really, really recommend that you have a paper backup copy. You never know when your phone is going to fail. It's a little bit extra to carry, but you're talking 2 sheets of paper and your passport.
It's a good point, because there's so many different ways that, well, in Canada, different provinces are doing that online piece differently. And because most cruises leave from not Canada, getting that technology recognized, you never know, it could be an issue. So the paper copies are an excellent choice.
And you have to have your proof of vaccination card. And for that, they really do want the paper copy. So you're going to be asked for that documentation at various times as you're checking in, and which occurs very similar to how it used to. You know, you go up to the desk, agent standing there, you show them your documentation, they get you checked in, and then away you go on board. And that procedure goes actually very smoothly. All 3 times I've done it, Celebrity Millennium back in July out of Seattle, the Adventure of the Seas out of Galveston, and the Navigator of the Seas out of LA. The procedures all went very smooth, and we were on board in very short order. In fact, half an hour we were on board. One of the things that we found really helps the process, which again comes with the app. You can do most of your muster drill before you even get to the cruise terminal, right? So there's videos to watch. Depending on the cruise line, the muster drills are a little bit different in what they have, what you can do before you board. But you watch the videos, you go through the safety procedures, all of that. You can do that before you even get to the cruise terminal. We did ours the day before. As we boarded the ship, we reported directly to our muster station, which to run through their procedures takes maybe 5 minutes. Most of that time is spent finding the muster station, right? Once you're on board. But if you go and you do that, then you're done. You know, I think the longest it took us was 35 minutes. And again, part of that was because we were trying to find the muster station.
Yeah, like you said, there's different ways that each line has been doing it, but for the most part, the reviews have been really good. That people like doing it this way, whether it be all on your phone and then reporting to your muster station, or when you get into your cabin, you can do it on the TV in your cabin and then report to your muster station. And then what happens at the muster station is different again by line. Some of them are running through some things. Some of them are just simply checking that you've done it. Some of them are simply showing you, checking you in and showing you how to put on your life jacket. Right, so everybody's done it a little bit differently, but any cruise that I've talked to people that have done that they love it. So you've kind of walked us through the check-in process of getting on board and doing muster. Once you're on board, what's the experience like for dining, for entertainment, for just every day on board?
Yeah, so the onboard experience, it can vary a bit, and how it varies is the CDC guidelines. As we know, everybody that is all passengers 12 and over must be vaccinated. For some cruise lines, they're changing that mandate as early as January, where all passengers 5 and over must be vaccinated. Everybody must be tested. But the CDC also mandates that masks must be worn inside and in crowded outdoor venues if the ship is less than 95% vaccinated. 100% of crew are vaccinated. So in the past 3 cruises where we've fallen below that 95% is on a cruise where we have a number of children, which was the Adventure of the Seas. So on Adventure of the Seas, whenever we were moving venues, or in at the theater, you have to wear your mask. Outdoors, you don't, as long as the area isn't crowded. and this cruise had 1,300 people on board, 1,300 passengers, of a capacity of 3,807. So, there weren't crowded areas. If you're sitting having a drink or eating, you don't have to wear a mask. It's just like most places at home. If you're going from the lounge to the pizzeria, you just put your mask on while you're going.
Yeah.
And that. Now, on the experiences where we have hit those 95% vaccination rates, so that was on the Millennium and of course on the Navigator, because the Navigator was an industry-only cruise, so it was only travel professionals and selected media. But in those venues, masks were not mandatory. It's mandatory for crew to wear masks.
Did you find that maybe this may be more pertinent to the adventure cruise, that things that you do on board, the shows and the bars, the lounges, were the experiences still very similar to what they were pre-COVID?
Very much so. The biggest difference, other than masks, that people would notice, the buffets are not self-serve. But a really positive thing that I've noticed with the past 3 cruises is nobody's trying to dodge the washy lines going into the Windjammer or
it's good that, like I say, the buffet wasn't self-serve. I know some lines, Carnival specifically, has gone back to the you serve yourself buffet, which actually kind of surprised me, because I was on a Carnival cruise as COVID happened, and from that point forward, Carnival started serving at the buffet, and you basically just went, they handed your cutlery and your plate went down the line, and they did it all. So I was actually surprised that Carnival didn't go back to that model. Things have been relatively the same on board, other than maybe you might get a mask in some places or whatever. People are being much more cognizant of washing their hands and looking after what they can do to keep everyone safe.
Now, the specialty dining on board all of the ships, every cruise that I've done, the specialty dining is out of this world. These were some of the best meals I've ever had. We went to Chop's Grill on the Adventure of the Seas for dinner, and that was, next to Victoria and Albert's in Walt Disney World, probably the best meal I've had. And I mean, if you've ever been to Victoria and Albert's, it's a $400 experience. This was not a $400 cost, but the experience was almost as good. It was phenomenal. We went to Giovanni's table for lunch one day, and again, one of the most delicious Italian meals I've had. Really good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other points about the cruises that you'd like to?
With each of the cruises I've done, they were very early on in the ship's return to service. The Adventure of the Seas had been on a 2-month dry dock. Navigator was its very first cruise since COVID. Shut it down. So they were 18 months out of service. And I expect things to be pretty rusty. If you're given 2 months off or a year and a half off, you're going to be rusty when you return to your job. But by the end of each of those cruises, they were right back to where they were.
We've been on 3 different cruise lines, and I've always find that the breakfast in the main dining room can be a little bit hit or miss at the best of times. The part of the cruise that no one likes is when it ends. So was the disembarkation any different because of COVID?
A little bit, in that, again, they're really staggering those disembarkation times, which is not all that different from what they did in the past. But people just feel more of a obligation to stick with those times, I think. Disembarkation is actually really easy. You just grab your stuff and go. Getting off the ship, going through customs, it was very simple, very easy. In Galveston, we grabbed our bags and we were headed literally out the door of the terminal when the customs agents just asked us, any cigarettes or alcohol to declare? No, go ahead. Like, she was literally just standing there at the door.
Welcome to Texas.
Welcome to Texas.
Thanks, Jerry. I think that's a pretty good, or gives everybody a pretty good feel about what cruising's like. Again, or right now, that it's still pretty safe. I mean, it's always been safe. I think, and I know we've talked about this before. I think cruising has always been one of the safest way to vacation, and right now probably the safest way to vacation, simply because of the rules that they have to abide by in order to keep sailing. You mentioned that most cruise lines have gone to the 95%. They want 95% of their passengers to be vaccinated, and they're only giving exemptions to kids for the most part. But now that we're both in Canada and the US, the vaccinations have been approved for children as young as 5. That cruise lines will most likely start moving down to that. You have to be fully vaccinated from 5 and up. And I think I believe it's these ones that already announced that's going to start happening in January.
Disney Cruise Line doing that in January. Royal is not expected to change. They announced their procedures for the first quarter. So anything can happen. They're expected to keep the same procedures that are in place right now until the end of the first quarter. If you say the little phrase "washy-washy" to someone, and they laugh and smile like you're just doing now, you know that they've been on a cruise, and it doesn't matter which cruise line it is. They all have come up with that saying that they've always made health and safety a priority on cruise ships. Cruising has gone that extra mile to make sure that everything's clean, everything's always washed and sanitized. So again, if you're looking to travel right now, cruising is a perfect way of doing it. And with that being said, I mean, people wanting to cruise, and there are plenty of people that had cruises booked throughout the last 18 months, and they've given out tons of future cruise credits, millions,
which
there are
need to be used.
Yeah. There are 1.3 million outstanding future cruise credits with Royal Caribbean alone. And the booking windows, Darcy, those are coming up very soon, that those credits have to be booked.
The region, I believe, is by the end of the year that you have to use them to make your bookings, and I think Royal is later on.
Royal is into April. Yeah. So they have to be booked.
They have to be booked. You don't have to cruise. You have to book your cruise using those credits. And I think, again, depending on the line, you could go into 2023. So if you have future cruise credits, you need to be talking to somebody, Terry, myself.
You need to be talking with Darcy or myself.
About getting your cruise booked. That being said, there are tons of great cruise lines, tons of deals for people out there. So if you're looking to vacation, whether it be right away, March break into the spring, or even into late next year, early the following year, give us a shout. Reach out to us, whether it be through our Facebook pages or our websites, or give us a call, and we can talk about what those cruises might be and what cruise line is best for you, and find something that will give you the best possible deal that we can find, and get you enjoying vacations again. So that's it for me, Terry. I give you the last word to jump in and say anything you might want.
Yeah, thank you, Darcy. Cruising is the safest way to travel right now, and it is a lot of fun. It is great to get back out on those seas, to see the smiling faces of all the crew who have missed us so much. And I'm so very grateful to all the crew on the ships that have made it so easy to get back into the wonderful habit of being pampered.
It's always great to be pampered. Actually, I thought of one thing, Terry, that maybe one last bit of advice you can give people for cruising, especially maybe from the adventure, the seas experience, is where not to be at sail away.
So, at sail away, out of Galveston, we went up onto the top deck to wave at Darcy, who was watching us through the port cam there, and we were waving to him as they sounded the horn, which were about 20 feet behind us and about 10 feet above. And the sound of those horns, they rattle your bones, but it was hilarious and great fun.
So folks, I hope you enjoyed this first edition of Talking Travel with Terry and Darcy, your hosts from opposite coasts. Again, my name is Darcy McKillop. I'm on the East Coast.
And I'm Terry Hawkins, out from the West Coast.
We'll see you next time.